thought I'd start out with asking Salim a question there. It's with Northern Ireland, we know that it has a strong industrial heritage, and I have to say that it's globally recognised for development of its mobile solutions. Salim, can you tell us a little bit more about the evolution of Northern Ireland's engineering industry?
Thank you, Gavin, for the opportunity. Great to be back again at FMF 24. We're very much excited about being a country lead partner to FMF 24. Invest Northern Ireland is a government organization, Gavin. We work and operate under the Northern Irish Department for Economy. We are mandated by encouraging investments into Northern Ireland and support exports to the world globally. We have 28 offices spread all over the world. 5 of those offices are at IMEA region. We have an office in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where I am based and stationed at. We have a regional office in Dubai, a regional office in Johannesburg covering all of Africa. Recently, we have recognized the opportunity in Egypt and opened an office in Cairo. Of course, we have an office in Mumbai, and that's about it. So 5 offices in IMEA. This is how serious we are looking at India, Middle East, and Africa as an opportunity. Northern Ireland is a very well-known country in the engineering and manufacturing of material handling equipments, covering multi-sectors under that. Under that, we recognize the mining as a sector. We recognize quarrying as a sector as well. Definitely waste recycling is a very important and complements mining and quarries. So in Northern Ireland, I was surprised to find out that 40% of the world's global exports are coming from Northern Ireland. I mean, such a small country, but with massive engineering and manufacturing capabilities is a very impressive figure. I would say in 2022, Northern Ireland has exported approximately 1.3 billion pounds worth of material handling equipment globally. 15% of that number came to India, Middle East, and Africa. Out of that, I would say around 40% ended up in Saudi Arabia. So we do recognize that the mining sector in Saudi Arabia is a critical sector for us, for our growth, for our ambitious growth plans in Saudi Arabia. Through our participation at FMF 23 last year and the amount of traction and engagement we have experienced, okay, this is what encouraged us to participate again at FMF 4. We are here with 7 great Northern Irish companies that we have been keeping busy since this morning with engagements, with networking, with discovering opportunities, and so on. So that's how I would say it, Gavin. That's how we look at FMF.
Okay. I wanted to touch on. You said you're based in Jeddah.
Yes.
And we're here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The opportunities. It comes down to why have we got such an impressive delegation? There's a reason. There's a commercial reason for that. What do you see as the opportunities, particularly in respect of the kingdom?
Okay. Yesterday, we went to Qudiyya Experience Center, one of the largest infrastructure projects ongoing in Saudi Arabia. Definitely, we are very well positioned with our technologies and partners to serve those giga infrastructure projects with our equipment, technologies, and solutions. Of course, what we have learned from FMF 23 is that Saudi Arabia in particular, the Middle East in general, is looking at the mining sector, okay, as the second biggest pillar for economical development after the oil and gas and energy. So keeping that in mind, the mining sector is also going through a tremendous transformation. I would say even a paradigm shift in terms of approach, the scale of the projects, the concessions being awarded to multiple foreign companies coming to Saudi Arabia to invest in this sector. We have visited a mining site 2 days ago with the companies that has a JV formation between a UK company and a local Saudi company. So the mining sector, we do recognize the mining sector as an important sector for us to address, and we are very well positioned with the technology and the companies we have to serve it extremely well. The material handling sector in Northern Ireland has 4 or 5 very renowned and respected companies that serve this, not only in the Middle East or Europe, but you look at North America, Australia, and so on. So we are trying to copy those success stories into this market, and we so far we had really great examples of success stories into the mining sector.
Okay. Salim, you said that Invest Northern Ireland is a government, for want of a better phrase, department.
Yes.
That brings to me government-to-government relations. How do you see the relationship between Northern Ireland, the government, and the Kingdom government?
Well. I mean, we're operating under the UTA, okay, definitely. So we're working very closely with the British Embassy in Riyadh, okay, and we're using their extensive, strong network into riding the wave. Yes. Along with them, okay. So that's one side of it. 2 years ago, we managed to take a delegation from Saudi Arabia to Northern Ireland, where they have visited 5 or 6 companies, I believe, and looked at their engineering capabilities and their manufacturing skills, and that played into our favor. That was a strong visit. For the first time, I know all of them, the gentlemen that visited Northern Ireland, were there for the first time, but they were very much impressed with what they have seen as manufacturing and engineering capabilities over there. But definitely, we work closely with the UK Embassy, okay, and we do actually meet regularly on regular basis, and we do build on their success stories and the wider UK offering into the mining sector. Yeah.
So what you're really saying is that with Invest Northern Ireland, and I can recognise the UK link, but that in the area of materials handling, that you certainly punch above your weight.
Oh, definitely. They come to us for that, to be honest with you, when it comes to material handling strength. And you saw we have a separate pavilion this year adjacent to the UK pavilion. And that's how big is this sector into Northern Ireland and how well recognized it is. So and we had the ministerial visit as well. And so that created a lot of excitement and noise around it for us.
Okay, strength your arm on that. But back to the companies we looked at here, I'm going to ask each of the companies to look at the first part here to 2 parts of a question. The first is when we look at technological innovation, we can look at automation, digitisation, electrification, and even to a certain extent areas like AI, artificial intelligence. So the first part of the question to each, and I'm going to start, Ruchin, with you, is can you give us a 1-minute insight into your company? Okay. And then can you help us with that second part of the question, which is how the technological innovations that we touched upon a moment ago changed your business model. And now I'll ask the question of each of you down the line. So tell us who you are and how innovation has got you to where you are or where you're going. So first of all, we've got Ruchin Garg CDE Group, wet processing equipment company, bang, off you go.
I'll try my best to use this 1 minute. CDE is a 30 years old company. We have more than 2,000 installations across 100 countries. We design wet processing solutions to recover resources out of the waste and also more efficiently recover the natural resources or use, as the last session was talking about the positive mining. So that's the space we work a lot in terms of wet processing solutions to sustainably and effectively and more efficiently recover those resources. We have offices across the globe. Middle East and Africa is one of the regions that we work out of. We have our offices across in Australia, Americas. We're based out of UK. We have our offices even in Europe. Coming to the question as how technological innovation has changed our business model. So yes, technological innovations and also the need of the market had impacted the business model. Say, when we started, most of these processing plants used to be those stick-built plants, where complete change is now on modality. What this helps us is there has to be a pace in the mining solutions. A mining plant cannot now wait for 3 years to be installed. That was one of the requirements, so modularity has helped. Digitization and smart apps and everything. So we have developed a patented app that gives you insight on a live database. Optimizing even those plants to a far greater extent and optimizing them to the best of the possibility is what digitization is helping us. Everybody wants, say, every pound they spend, they want the best use of it. So digitization is helping us, and we as a company have been able to evolve and do it for the industry. So, yeah.
Well done in that. Now, Jamie Mayers is with EvoQuip, looking at crushing, screening and conveying equipment. Could you give us an insight into your company, about a minute or so, and then look at that question of how innovation has impacted, changed or will change your business model?
Yeah, of course, Gavin. So EvoQuip is one of 3 mobile crushing and screening brands within Terex. And traditionally, Terex would be seen as an acquisition company. But EvoQuip is slightly unique, where Terex leveraged off the 60 years experience that they have in the mobile crushing and screening market and created EvoQuip organically. They really saw a gap in the market for compact equipment, and that's how we differentiate ourselves from the other 2 brands within Terex. So we focus predominantly on the quarrying and recycling market. The heaviest machine that we offer is 35 ton. And for that reason, we try to delve into, user friendliness, machines that can be easily set up on site, maybe within 5 minutes, lower fuel consumption, easier to transport due to the reduced weight. So we've been in the 7th year now, and we've been growing quite quickly and exponentially. We're very well established now in Europe, North America, Australasia, and the Middle East is a very big focus for us right now. With regards then to your queries on innovation, so I suppose to focus initially on digitization, Terex was the first mobile crushing and screening brand to standardize telemetry. And what I mean by telemetry is remote monitoring of our machines. So we can record any faults that are being seen. We can record the output of the machine, all done remotely. And we've actually just very recently released a customer fleet app, where the customer has an application on their phone, and they will receive a notification if there's some kind of issue or something with the machine, maybe low on oil or something. They get the notification to their phone, and they can address these things before the problem actually happens. And then to do with the powertrain of our machines, I think electrification is a real hot topic now within the industry. And of course, we have hybrid machines available currently within our product range. And we're actually going to the next step to look at hydrogen diesel solutions. So listen, there's currently a project ongoing with the local Queen's University Belfast for a hydrogen diesel solution within mobile crushing and screening equipment. So we hope by the end of 2024 to have trialed this technology within one crusher and one screener. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
So that's not too far away, that hydrogen-related.
No, and listen, I think for places where there's abundance of sun and water availability, that tends to lean itself towards the hydrogen. So listen, it's very early stages, but we have to start the testing and then see where it goes. Okay.
Sensor Tech, which is in the area of low-powered wireless sensors for remote machines. Adir Budawad, Adir, would you give us an insight to Sensor Tech and then look at the question of a model, how it changes the model, impacts the model?
Yeah, thanks, Gavin. So Sensor Tech is a company who has developed wireless sensors for remote machine condition monitoring, and pretty much putting sensors around equipment, all type of equipment, including all the machines that are being provided by Northern Ireland, manufactured there, up to the end user. What we do, we monitor key parameters, a bit like your heartbeat, and based on that data we collect, we can predict if a machine is going to break down, avoiding downtime, reducing overall energy wastage, and helping the world becoming more sustainable. We have application in all industries. Mining represents roughly about 50% of our overall market, and we're pretty much global, so anywhere from Cape Town to Australia to South America. We are monitoring full sites and full mines, helping customers to monitor equipment and helping them with reducing downtime and optimizing machine efficiency. So in terms of technology, obviously we're heavily focused on technology and innovation. Our system has been based on general knowledge of equipment, information databases for the last 70 years. Through the upcoming innovation that we see around the world, we are seeing a lot more AI integration into our systems. And that's helping customers to not only tell them, if a machine is going to break down, but being a lot more accurate in terms what issue may I encounter, how long do I have left on my equipment, how quickly do I need to send somebody, and really helping customers to be much more predictive into what's going to happen with their equipment.
In my country, Australia, we have some pretty big minerals processing facilities. One of them is more than, a minerals processing facility is more than 1 kilometre long. And it always has these issues of sensing where it might break down or where it does break down. So does your equipment look to these large mineral processing plants as well as the smaller ones?
Absolutely. So we monitor anything from large vibrating screen crushers, large conveyor belts, so anything from end to end, whether it's mobile plant or static plants, especially in a remote location where you maybe don't want to send somebody or it might be a health and safety concern. You can put sensors there who will keep an eye on your equipment 24/7, avoiding any kind of concern.
Okay. Right. Now, did we touch upon the how impacting your model?
In terms of technology, yeah. I mean, I've touched a little bit on that, saying about the AI element of it. So what we do see, especially after the COVID, we are seeing a big rise in need of remote condition monitoring globally around the world. People don't want to send personnel into remote sites. The integration of AI into our system. So we're just seeing a big drive into more remote condition monitoring and across full sites, where before it might have been one or two equipment. We see now that end users and customers are going across sites, everywhere around the world. We've got a lot of very successful success stories in other parts of the world, in the mining industry, and we're hoping to repeat the same thing here in the Kingdom.
Did you mention how many countries that you've exported to?
Today we're around 35 countries
Wow,
around the world, yeah.
that's fantastic in that sense. Fergal McPhillips with Terex washing systems. My 8-year-old grandson, would rather your name was T-Rex washing systems, but that's not going to happen. But Fergal, can you give us an insight into Terex and also the business model and how innovation is impacted?
No problem. Thank you very much, Gavin. Yes, so Terex Washing Systems was formed in 2012 by amalgamating two sister brands, Powerscreen Washing and Finlay Washing. So we actually work off a legacy of brands of over 60 years in innovation for washing equipment. And ultimately, the types of products that we do is everything from the feeder all the way through to the filter press. So we pride ourselves on the ability to provide a solution ultimately from A to Z, or A to Z, depending on who we're talking to. So the equipment that we manufacture is mainly for the market of quarrying for the construction sector, but also we do a lot in the mining sector. One particular segment of the mining sector that we would be particularly active in is the silica sand. So silica sand washing for the likes of glass production, either bottled glass or flat glass. We manufacture in Northern Ireland, that's the headquarters, but we also have manufacturing facilities in India, and we operate through a global dealer network. So we like to have the dealer in the country who's going to be able to do the after sales, the support, the spare parts, etc. Now, in regard to the question on digitization and electrification, now, most of our equipment is already electric. We don't really run much of our equipment with diesel power. And on the digitization part of things, like we have a lot of telemetry in it, and these are quite complex projects, especially if you're getting into the silica sand production. So we find that monitoring of the plants is crucial. So we actually use some of the sensor tech equipment, and then we put this through a various different system in order to get the spit out the data. And the data is the power ultimately. So when we have the monitoring, we can tell if the equipment needs further maintenance, or indeed if there is an ability to get more capacity out of the machines. So we work off gathering all of the information, feeding it through, that it can give you a readout exactly what the equipment is doing.
When did you say your company was formed?
2012 was when Terex Washing Systems was born, but it was by joining two other sister companies, Terex Finlay and Terex Washing, Terex Finlay and Powerscreen Washing, to create Terex Washing Systems.
I'm just imagining what it was like all those years ago. When you first started up, the technology changes would be mind-boggling.
Well, certainly the first type of washing equipment would be a lot different from what it is today. Indeed, I suppose the likes of hydrocyclone technology, we would have introduced it in the early 2000s. Previous to that, it would have been the likes of bucket wheel dewatering systems, etc. So definitely a little bit more basic.
Quite amazing, really. TSAB is in the aggregate crushing area. They're specialists in that area. Julian Fagan, can you give us an insight into TSAB, and can you also help us with this, how it's impacting the business
I'll
model?
certainly do my best, Gavin, and thank you for the opportunity, and good afternoon to everyone in our audience. TSAB, it's a relatively small Northern Irish company compared to maybe some of the others that are here today, but TSAB has probably been one of those companies that has, we can probably again say, punched above its weight for, 30 plus years now. But the company, it was privately owned. It had probably more flexibility actually than what it has now, which I'll get to. But so, the route to market for TSAB generally was they didn't work through a distribution network. It was a case of they had, a number of sales guys on the ground, and those guys, went out to, various locations globally. They had their customer base and they sold directly to their customer base. But about a year and a half ago, TSAB was bought over by the Metso Corporation. And with the advent of that buyover, the route to market now for TSAB is through a distribution network, which historically is how most of these companies tend to work. So my job really is to try and build that distribution network and let's say take TSAB to the next level, wherever that may be.
Okay, fine.
Getting to your question, how have these technology advances affected TSAB? Probably in a good way. Like most of the other similar companies within the industry, and actually most of those, as we have alluded to earlier, are actually from Northern Ireland. But we've had to look at electrification, which has been the buzzword now for probably, well, I don't know, maybe the best part of 10 years. So electrification, hybrid technology, that's something we too are looking at, we're involved in. We have brought units to the market with this hybrid technology. Of course, with that hybrid technology, it brings an additional cost, and the type of industry that we work in, it tends to be quite almost raw and rudimentary, where customers prefer to sort of stick to what they know, which tends to be diesel hydraulic. So in effect, there's a re-education process there that probably most of us have to go through to try and get the advantages of hybrid technology and electrification. We have to try and get that across, albeit with the additional cost, to try and prove that this is the way that we need to be moving if we are to do what we say we are to do from an environmental perspective as we move forward. So yes, we are like our competitors. We're moving into that realm where we have to consider more specifically electrification and to some degree digitization to really keep at the forefront of the industry.
True. Robert Friedland of Ivanhoe spoke this morning, and he often speaks, and he talks about the electrification of everything. And so in that sense, it's where you're really looking at now. I'll ask a general question here on the electrification issue, because you all face it. How do you deal with this electrification issue? And you did touch on hydrogen-based, but how do you deal with that when you're providing equipment to remote mining sites? Anyone want to touch on that?
Yeah, I can elaborate on that. Yeah, well, what we do is, we talk about electrification, but really what we're talking about is more so it's a hybrid type of electrification, where equipment is generally supplied with a diesel engine, but that diesel engine is in effect driving a generator set. So effectively the machine is working with a diesel engine and the electric generator set. So therefore the machine is capable, obviously with the supply of diesel fuel, to work in remote areas. But as that machine, being mobile, can move around, it can actually then, whenever there is, let's say, an electrification source, if you want to call it that, available, the machine can actually be plugged into that source and run on electric alone, negating the need for the diesel engine. So you've got options there, and options that we do find that customers tend to want to be able to use.
Okay. We've got 5 companies here, and one of the questions that came to mind for me, and this is a question without notice, okay? So I'd invite one of you to have a look at it. It's materials handling, Northern Ireland. You seem to be damn good at it. What's in the DNA? You're looking at companies that have up to 60 years of expertise, 30 years of expertise in this area, and essentially it's in materials handling. What's in the DNA of Northern Ireland that makes it so good at this in this sector? Does anyone care to?
I think it was actually one of our colleagues within Terex Finlay. They were kind of the pioneer from a mobile side of things in screening equipment, and I think naturally when there's expertise there, the competition then kind of streams out from that, and hence back to Salim's point of 60% globally is in that area, and that's kind of how it is really grown from that. But it's probably a good thing because, I think it's in the Irish blood, the competitiveness, and ultimately that drives the innovation and making the products better.
Anyone care to add anything, Fergal?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Gavin, and I had to refer to an uncle of mine who's been involved in machinery for many, many years. He's in his 80s now. And I asked him precisely the same question as to why he believed it all started off in County Tyrone. And his explanation on it was due to many, many multiple sand pits along the large lake, Lough Neagh, and areas where they would be dredging the sand, which was particularly difficult to screen. Just the properties of the sand were very, very difficult to screen, and they wanted higher capacities on it. So this brought on the innovation of using mobile equipment, so it could be moved from one pit to another pit quite easily, and very high frequency style screening. So this is where he believes the innovation was born. And then, as Jamie mentioned, the competitive nature of ourselves, we kind of multiplied and multiplied.
True. Salim, you wanted to add?
Yeah, probably I think to your point, and a very important point, is shipbuilding excellence. Northern Ireland is known for its shipbuilding capabilities and excellence. I don't want to mention the Titanic, but when I was in Northern Ireland and I went to the Titanic Museum, I mean, the Titanic was a marvel of an engineering work, definitely. That industry has enabled a lot of other adjacent industries, or actually have changed the engineering strength in Northern Ireland, and has taken that into agricultural machinery, material handling machinery, probably healthcare and life sciences as well. So we should really consider shipbuilding strength as one of the enabler factors into the strengths of Northern Ireland in material handling.
Okay. I wanted to touch on the question that I did have a quick chat with you about, the export advantages and disadvantages that you see. But before I ask each of you or a few of you to look at export advantages and disadvantages, just remind me how many countries again that you're exporting to in that sense. So maybe Ruchan, how many countries?
We're exporting to around 100 countries. We have plants across
Around 100?
100, yeah.
Okay.
Predominantly working across all the regions.
Okay. Jamie?
For us, Gavin, we currently have 54 dealers. Not necessarily across 54 countries, but we're still in that growth period. So, like I said, very well established. North America, Europe, Australasia, and the Middle East and South America will be the next steps for us.
Yadir?
Yeah, 35 countries spread all over the 5 continents.
Okay. Fergal?
At a stab, I would imagine that it's over 150 countries. If you consider the 60 years of heritage that we have, and I personally have done business in over 90 countries. So my predecessors, I'm sure, would have had a lot more.
It's amazing. And Julian?
Yeah, it's and again for TSAB, again a relatively small and a company with again a relatively short history, but again it's 35 plus countries that we would have exposure to.
It's amazing. And back to the central question there was, from your base there, the export advantages and sometimes the disadvantages. Does anyone care to touch on those export advantages? Ruchan?
Probably, yeah. So I think a part of this export advantage is also, or the need to export, also built up the industry. The earlier question that you were asking about DNA, coming from a completely different world to Ireland, I see a lot of these equipments were designed to be mobile, designed to be modular, or rather designed to be exported. So first of all these companies which are sitting in some way, I believe, have designed these equipments to be exported. So that's the biggest advantage that was there. As a location and availability of not only skill set, what was there, that allowed us to export from there. Some of the friends in Northern Ireland, I asked this question, is their willingness to travel? I believe that has been always told to me as one key advantage for Northern Ireland companies to start exporting and start reaching different parts of the world. So I think, yes, these are a set of advantages. A little remote to some of the places, but yes, all the cost and other parameters are helping us in exporting to all these markets.
Okay, anybody else wanted to touch upon that, the export advantages or disadvantages?
Well, I think there's a number of export advantages, as as the guys have said. But you can look at it from, if you wanted to call it a disadvantage, is the fact that there's so many of us producing so much equipment of a similar stature in one small part of the world. That whenever we're speaking with potential distributors and people like that, and maybe there's competition. I've spoken to them in the past. I think it's very hard for a lot of these people to understand that there's so much similar equipment coming from such a small geographical area. So I think sometimes that can be perceived as being a disadvantage almost, but it's thankfully outweighed by the many advantages.
Okay, anybody else?
I would actually consider probably one of our most important parts of the export is the expertise that we have in the field. The years that we have behind us and the experience that we have from exporting to many countries kind of gives us the edge in regard to the ability to produce process engineered solution to these areas and integrate everything from the feeders, crushers, washing equipment. So I think it's as much the equipment that we manufacture, but the expertise that we bring along with it, and the training that we give our people to go out to sell the equipment.
Yeah, I asked that question with something in the back of my mind, and not one of you touched upon it, which I saw as a strength in a place like Northern Ireland. That was the ability to communicate. It seems to be in the DNA there. Do you find you're dealing from Northern Ireland, you're dealing across somewhat upwards of 100 countries. That ability to communicate with cultures different to your own, that must be seen as an advantage somewhere.
I think, Gavin, from my opinion, it is a very special industry. People are very kind of down to earth, normal. It's very much a relationship building industry. I think naturally the Irish are quite good at that. And ultimately what people want is to feel supported and trusted. And I think that is kind of ingrained in our heritage, and I believe that comes across well.
Okay, I've got one more question, then I'll throw it to the floor for questions. But my last question here is, why are you here in the kingdom? What opportunities do you see in Saudi Arabia? Go on, Gulchan, go on, have a go.
So definitely, Salim started this conversation about everything that is available. Today in the morning only we heard the minister talking about the potential of mineral going from 1.3 trillion to something like
2.5 billion.
Trillion. Yes.
Trillion.
So that's in itself talks about the opportunity. What I also see, in some way, Saudi Arabia is a little late mover into this, and they are getting the advantages. So adoption of the technology, which gives us a pretty good strength in terms of attracting clients over there. They want to adopt the best available technology for them. So that gives the direct access. They want to have something that is sustainable and working for them. Sustainability is again a key concern for every client, whether coming from waste recycling, whether coming from mining. So those are the key areas that fits just to our ethos of working. And that's why we see Saudi Arabia is a great opportunity. We have more than 120 plants only in Middle East, a good number of 20 plants, so there is a reference to it. So definitely it's one of the best growing markets for us, Middle East, and Saudi Arabia is at the heart of it.
Okay, Jamie, Evo-Quip and the Kingdom.
Yeah, so I guess with regards to the mining industry here and Evo-Quip, at a first glance, it wouldn't appear like a natural fit. Like I said, it's because our machines are compact, they're not necessarily targeted at that sector. But there has been challenges that have been identified, and with that comes opportunity. And for example, this year we launched a brand new shredder. A small 16-ton shredder that is very versatile, has the ability to process and volume reduction a lot of different types of material. Now, it's not a high output machine, but we've already received some queries from mine sites where they have a buildup of tires, for example, from other machinery, or a buildup of pallets. And this creates a problem because they need to dispose of this waste material. It needs to be transported. So from a volume reduction perspective, we now have a machine there that is very suited for them. And the fact that it's a lower output machine suits what they have to do. It's not always a high processing rate that is required. So for every challenge, there's an opportunity, and that's kind of where EvoQuip fits into the bigger picture.
Okay, Adia, the King?
Yeah, sure. We've been in the region for the last 2 years, and we've really seen probably from last year, talking to a lot of potential customers in the region, that there's a lot of project and a lot of demand, certainly for our products in the region and in the kingdom. So while we've had some success stories in Oman and the UAE and other regions, we do see a huge demand for end products here in the region. With, like, I know Salim mentioned earlier some of the sites we visited yesterday and the day before, and we can really see how in the next few years that's going to require a lot of remote condition monitoring and all machine condition monitoring that we provide for this market.
Okay, Fergal.
Yeah, well, Terex sees a considerable amount of opportunities in Saudi, like aside of the 5 giga projects that are going on, the amount of construction aggregates and wash sand that they are going to require. Also, as mentioned, mining being one of the pillars for growth. All of this is going to require a great deal of washed aggregates and washed sand. And also, what I would see is being very important in Saudi is the best use of water. Needless to say, water is a major scarcity, and in all washing projects you need vast volumes of water. So I would be considering a lot of the Terex washing systems, water treatment systems, been integrated in all of this, so we can recycle maybe up to 95% of the water to continue the sustainability of it. Okay,
Julian.
Yeah, I think if you look at Saudi, if any of us have taken that time to look into what the Saudi Arabia's 2030 vision is really all about, it's elevated, let's say, the mining and quarrying sector, to a much higher position as it has been previous. So obviously, the country sees that elevating the industry is vitally important to allowing Saudi to achieve, I think it's net zero targets that they have in place for 2060. So the fact that they've actually done that and elevated our sector to a much higher level, that's why we're here, because we know that there's so much importance now placed on the industry. It's ultimately crazy not to be here.
Okay, great. Looking back to the audience here, there any questions that anyone would like to raise? Come on, sir, we have one over here, so there's a microphone. Just let us know who's having a chat, and then we'll...
Okay, my name's Pat Bryan. I'm a vice president at Terex, so I know some of the attendees. But I'm trying to link the opening ceremony discussion around critical minerals and what the panel thinks might be the influence on equipment needs going forward. So is there going to be new technologies required to access at the right cost the minerals of that are going to be so important in the future?
Great question. It's not only that part of the question, but the other part of that question too is improving recoveries, which people will want better value out of processing their critical or strategic minerals. So anyone care to have a look at that question?
Probably, yeah. I'll touch on that in terms of, first I'll answer your question in terms of additional amount of recovery. Now, that's something that has come across to us not only in Saudi Arabia, but also in Africa and in other part of the mining countries. What we call as a mining waste specifically, so for example, we are talking about a particular project in gold, what was considered to be waste for last 10 years and have been stored. It could now be processed with the help of CDE systems to be going back into the same system that then allows them not to excavate, that then allows them a good 2 years of supply without even access to that query waste. So there is an additional technologies which have now been evolved for this waste recovery and more efficient recovery. In terms of the critical minerals, definitely the processing will be required. Do we need additional amount of technologies? There are complex technologies, there are minerals, and whenever we talk about these different critical minerals coming from that background into mineral processing, it has been innovating all this time. We would need that investment into process, especially in this part of the world. That's the whole idea of us being here in Saudi Arabia in terms of catering to that general idea of mineral processing and getting to those critical minerals. Yes, there is a requirement and there is a need which has been talking about. Even apart from critical minerals, I'm talking about even the general minerals which have not have been explored. Like silica has been a really untapped market in Saudi Arabia, which is getting across a lot of traction. So processing is there. Processing is
it's funny in some respects, because I remember about 18 months ago talking with the government here, and they were discussing what is a critical mineral, and it came down to a pretty simple thing. It is something you don't have, you don't control in that sense. So would anyone else care to cover that tricky question of either critical minerals or improving recoveries? And then we'll see one more question, then we might wrap up.
I think quickly, maybe just to kind of elaborate a little bit on what Ruchin had said, but there's been, looking at some data, there's been, I think, 45 different types of minerals identified in the kingdom. And we were fortunate enough on Monday actually to be invited to a mining site. I think it was 2.5 hours from Riyadh. And again, fortunate to be able to sit through part of the process of how this actually came about. So we were able to understand that the consultation process now for this particular site has almost completed, and they're in the process now of bringing in equipment. And what they're doing, the types of equipment they're bringing in is probably now the best that there is in the business. So at that stage, which they're at now, the technology, like we talked about, the automation, the digitization, and to improve health and safety and whatever, that's all happening as we speak in the kingdom. So, it's something that, the kingdom is relatively new to, and it's as I said, it's happening.
Okay, fine. Okay, look, I think we might leave it there and wrap up. Before we wrap up, I'd personally like to thank Nabil Khoury for the role that he's played in helping me better understand what you're doing and where you're trying to go in this space. So Nabil, thank you very much. It's been, as I said to you in a note, first class, and I appreciated it. To wrap up, Salim, would you please
Yes, I would
take
like
a
to thank
minute or
our
so?
audience so much for joining us today. Thank you, Gavin. I would really encourage everyone to visit our pavilion at number C01.
C01, don't forget that.
Please, yes. We would like to take this discussion further in more details. We would like to explore collaboration opportunities with local Saudi companies, local Saudi end users. Definitely, the companies in Northern Ireland are very eager to engage in the Saudi economy, very eager to play a very positive role in the mining sector. Not only the mining sector, the mining sector is an enabler to many other sectors such as waste recycling, ports management, bulk material handling, and so on. Those 7 companies are actively already engaged in Saudi Arabia, so the install base, the healthy install base is already in place. So thank you so much once again, and we look forward to seeing you at our pavilion. Thank you, Gavin.
Okay, well, thank you, Salim, and thank you, team from Northern Ireland. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the time.